What's up, guys? Welcome to the Behind the Golf Brand podcast. This week, I have a legend in the studio. I'm a good friend, Nick Bradley. You guys have seen him everywhere. He is not only a phenomenal coach, but an author and has his own school. And I'm really excited to have him on the show because I've made a lot of cool stories about where he started from and how he got to where he's at. So welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, Paul. Thank you for having me.
So where are you at right now?
So I'm a director of instruction at Knickerbocker Country Club in Tenafly, New Jersey. Got up here August last year, just off of a 2.5-year consultancy in Pinehurst, where I started a full-time junior academy. And so now that the kids have flown the nest and what have you, I always wanted to, in my career, come to the Met section, obviously in the springs and summers and falls. This part of my career, I think that the Met section offers just a tremendous variety of golf and great golf courses. So, I'm glad to be there. The membership at Knickerbocker is fantastic, really engaging, dedicated to improving. And it's a beautiful old Donald Ross golf course. So, a 1914, the layout's fantastic.
I bet it's beautiful there right now, isn't it? Or
it's stunning.
It's starting to get beautiful.
It's about 73 today, light breeze. So it's really nice.
So where did you grow up at? In London?
Yeah, so I'm from a little town called Kingston upon Thames, right on the River Thames in England. And my sport before golf was swimming. I swam competitively from the age of 8 to 21. You guys have states, we have counties. So I was 2-time county champion for butterfly. And so, I represented my county and used to actually train with the England squad in Crystal Palace. And so I got to a pretty high standard, but I'm only 5'7.5", so Hogan size for those nuts out there. And so, I started to compete against 14-year-old kids that were 6 foot, and I just got so tired of that. So at 16, I took up golf. I got down to scratch in 2 years, and I had 4 of my friends in my school that were golfers. They were already playing. So I needed to get good really quickly so I could play with them. And so I just read every book. I watched every video. It was like the Leadbetter Faldo era. So golf instruction was very popular at that point. So I actually gravitated more towards golf instruction and what made people good and better rather than actually competing. I struggled competing because, as you know, swimming is on your marks, get set, bang, and you're going. Golf is not like that at all. So I just developed an aptitude for technique and what works and what doesn't work. And it kind of it carried on. And then I was very fortunate at my golf club in England. We had a European Tour player who used to play and practice at the golf club. And in 1989, he took me to the European Tour school and I caddied and ended up coaching that week as well. So from the age of 21, I was really immersed into tour level coaching. Not that I was probably any good at that stage, by the way, but I was in that environment where I'd be walking onto the range at Wentworth with Seve, Sandy Lyle, Ian Woosnam, who I played golf with actually last month. And, so tour level golf and tour golf was always part of my life from a very early point.
So how did you get into a golf though? Did your dad play or your grandfather or?
No, none of us actually. I'm a first generation golfer. What happened was there's a little island.
You're a coach now. That's crazy.
Yeah, I know. There's a little island to the south of England called the Isle of Wight, actually famously where Jimi Hendrix died. But anyway, that's digression. So anyway, we're big into water sports, windsurfing and water skiing. And the weather was so bad this one week in May 1986, I think it was the month after Jack won the Masters. And so we couldn't do anything. So there was a little 9-hole pitch and putt place, little 7-iron putter. And I remember connecting with a couple of shots thinking, God, that felt pretty good. And my godfather, who was always trying to get my dad to play golf or me, and we said, no, we don't want to do it. My godfather played off of 2. So he gave me Hogan's 5 Fundamentals, 5 Lessons, the book, and I got a cheap set of golf clubs, and that was it. I just got the bug. I mean, every night down the driving range, 100 golf balls, looking at Golf World, Golf Digest. I mean, I was just a sponge. I mean, you're probably quite obsessed about it, if the truth be known, but it led on to other things. And I turned pro at 19. And as I say, by the age of 20, I was working on tour, like working with players. And this one particular player, what actually elevated me was he won the 1993 Irish PGA Championship at the K Club, where they went on to play the Ryder Cup. And then I started to get noticed. Actually, in 93, 94, I was headhunted by David Leadbetter and the organization, and I went from England to Lake Nona in Orlando.
Wow. So then you moved overseas in what, 94 then?
94, April 94. I did like my apprenticeship with Led, watching people like Andy Bean, Mark O'Meara, Nick Faldo, Nicky Price. And those were the days where we were the second wave of instructors to come in to work under David. And you genuinely did. Every day, you'd be setting up his golf balls, setting up the cameras and the VHS, blah, blah, blah. And, Faldo would rock up into town and you'd sit there with your notebook and you'd watch David actually coach all of these great players. And so it was amazing baptism of fire. And that's kind of like where I first got to know Nick, actually. I was 23, 24 years old. But what then happened was I went from Lake Nona. I then started to direct some of his golf academies around Europe. So most prominently Mount Juliet in Ireland, where I directed there, but then in Spain and various other places. So, I was the youngest academy director in the company at 25. And it was fantastic. It was a fantastic, I think, 3.5 years with the company. It was good. It was good.
You must have been like amazing. Like if you think about it, because you knew nothing and you read books and then you just like started to teach yourself. And I mean, what happened? Like, how'd you get that good that fast? Like once did you get taking lessons and stuff when you got like addicted to it or what?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at my first book, The 7 Laws of the Golf Swing, it kind of gives you a clue, because if you look at some of the images in there, they're very dynamic images. And what I did, the way that I learned the golf swing so quickly, I'm very artistic. I have a tremendous imagination. And what I did was I started to look at golf swings and I started drawing golf swings. And so I understood about plane angles. I understood about radiuses. I understood about lags. I understood about ground pressure. I mean, it's quite funny that, the law 3, this book was published 2003. The third law is called ground force dynamics. And this is 2003. Well, guess what all the buzzwords are now? How to use the ground and da-da-da. So, so what I did was I noticed that people like Mo Norman, Lee Trevino, Tom Weiskopf, Jack, how they use the ground. And then what I did was I drew it, and then that would feature in my book. So what I did was instead of trying to learn the golf swing in a numerical or intellectual sense, I learned it in a very visual sense, which just plugged in and I just got it straight away. So
because you're a visual learner, so you could see it, and then you're like, I bet other people can just see this too and go, oh, I get it now. Not this like, mathematical formula where you need to be at a certain time and whatever.
Certainly. If you look at great golf swings, especially now with biomechanics and everything, you really can see there are visual commonalities in great golf swings. It's very rare that you'll get a great looking golf swing that will hit the ball sideways. It just don't happen, right? You can't. You
haven't seen me golf yet.
Well, I need to see your swing. But, you don't drive a Ferrari out of the parking lot and it only goes 60 miles an hour, right? Because it's a Ferrari. And if you've got great technique, let's say stable technique, then you would expect that machine to be somewhat in control of everything. So I learned through actually one of Nick Faldo's great books is called The Winning Formula. It was his first ever book, and there were just hundreds of pictures in there, hundreds. I wish I had it here, but it's in my studio. And I just, every picture I drew and sketched over. And a lot of those sketches that I did back there in 87, 88, they now feature in my books. I just took them out and said, right, they're still relevant. So that's how, one of my mentors. I've always had mentors in my life. My father was my first one, and then I had others. One of my mentors in my life, he said, Nick, find out what you're really good at and keep doing it. Find out what you're shit at and never do it again. Right?
Yeah. Now, so what are you shit at with golf?
Yeah.
Nothing.
I said, okay, what am I good at? What am I good at? I'm really good at imagination. I'm really good at drawing.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
I'm gonna play to those strengths. Yeah. And then I ended
and nobody else is really doing that, right? I mean, you pictures and books, but was anybody really teaching like that though, with visual or to that extent?
The closest was Jim McQueen, who used to do Jack Nicklaus's books, and they were quite cartoony. They were,
my dad has a book. It's all yellow, and he's in front of like I know exactly what book that is. My dad had that, like it's all beat up and raggedy now.
There you go. And the Golf magazine used to do the weird sketches in the back, and they were the bits that I just used to go to, and because they were really interesting. So it was so that's how I learned. That's how I learned to, say, well, that kind of looks right, and no, that's not right, and this, and then all the science kind of backed me up when I started really coaching on the tour with a lot of other players.
It's funny too with like ground force reaction, like that's like the new thing now, right? In the last couple of years, or now it's starting to be, but like it's not just in golf. Like in baseball, I know it's the exact same thing. Like they talk about the exact same stuff, like how to hit the ball farther as a baseball player. Oh, it's ground force, right? Like,
right. Yeah.
But no one talked about that 20 years ago.
As you know, I mean, I'm associated with Squares golf shoes, and the science that Bob has put into that sort of like realm of the golf swing is absolutely fascinating. And like you say, 20 years ago, whatever it is, I recognized that there were so many golfers on driving ranges, like checking their club face or checking their right arm, but they had legs like Bambi, right? So it does
on the ice.
You could be like Ben Hogan here, right? And Ben Hogan here. But if your leg work is like, you just have no chance. You're putting the cart before the horse. So that was one of the big things that I focused on was, okay, golf starts from the ground upwards, because guess what? The most consistent thing in the golf swing is the ground, because it don't move. So you have to build it up by virtue of the fact that the most consistent thing is the ground. So you've got to use that.
So you came across, and then when did you start working with like tour players right away, or were you already doing that overseas before that?
No, so a European tour. I'd coached. I coached about 5 national champions by the age of 28, and I finished second actually in the head coach's position for the national team of Ireland. And because I finished second, I went off, and that was it. I was resurrected my tour work. So. I've had pupils win the Italian Open, the French Open. I started to work with Justin Rose actually in 2004. That was the first sort of time. But, in that period, I had winners win the Irish PGA, the Irish Amateur Championship, the Ladies Italian Open. I had 3 or 4 Challenge Tour winners and blah, blah, blah. And then my book came out in 2003, and I was like, well, I kind of need a new adventure now. And my father had always encouraged me to look to America, and certainly golf instruction was, as a business, was way better in America than it ever was in the UK, still is. And so that was it. So what happened was when I ticked all my boxes on the European tour and releasing a book, I was like, okay, well, America, here I come. So I had a very good friend of mine in a place called Sunset Beach, North Carolina, and there's a golf course down there called Barefoot, and you've got a Fazio Love. It's a huge place. So I opened up my golf school there in November 2005, not thinking I was going to work with any tour players. I wanted to open up golf academies. And then in May 2006, I got a call from Justin Rose, and that was it. I was back out on the PGA Tour coaching tour players. So it was like, oh God, all the best intentions. So I was back out that, and I actually gifted that golf academy. I actually gifted it to my head assistant and said, "Merry Christmas, goodbye." That was it.
Like, I'm leaving. I got something going on.
Yeah.
So how did Justin find you? Just from before? Like, like earlier, or did he hear about you, or did he go to your school clinic or class, or through, like, what happened? Like, how'd that all go about?
No, what happened was on the European tour, I'd had a couple of winners.
Yeah.
And a couple of them actually, ironically, were ex-Leadbetter students. Now, at the time, Justin was working with David. So he, one was a guy called Roger Winchester who won with me, and there was a couple of others. And then at the South African Open in 2004, I was walking down the range and he asked me to take a quick look at him. And then it was like the Wachovia Championship, as it was then, in Quail Hollow. He asked me to take a quick look at him. And, this is Scottish Open. Can you take a quick look at me? So it was always little quick looks at him. And he would always play better after these quick looks. And then in 2006, I attended Quail Hollow, which is obviously ironically this week. And he said, "Oh, would you take a quick look?" And I said, "No." And he was like, "What?" I said, "No, listen, every time I look at you, you play well. And, if you're going to do this, let's do it correctly." Because, I think he was like 120th in the world at the time and, in complete free fall. And so I think it took him 2 weeks to muster up the courage to call David and say, "Look, it's been fun." And then we started working together. I think the first, I think it was maybe the Houston Open or something like that in 2006. And then in a year, he got to world number 5 and European number 1. 20 months, actually. It's 20 months later. So, I put in a plan. I really understood the subject matter. I organized stuff a lot more clearly. And then things started to roll over. I mean, we did very well in the majors. And, he won 3 times with me. That was good. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
Well, I mean, I've always viewed myself as a consultant, not a golf instructor. I'm a consultant, and the difference is this. And I see a lot of tour players making this mistake today. And that is that if you have a team around you, which are employees, paid employees, an employee will come in, look at the problem, fix the problem, but because they hang around, they then become part of the problem. And then the consultant comes in, looks at the problem, fixes the problem, then leaves. So then you hand over ownership to that player, right? So really, I've always viewed myself as someone who comes in, is a problem fixer, will give you a plan, but I don't like to hang around too long, because I don't want to be part of the furniture where complacency sets in. So, I've done that with Kevin Chappell, who is actually, down in Arizona, I believe. Kevin Chappell came out of UCLA. His manager, Ralph Cross, called me. I was really busy. I actually got Kevin Chappell to write me a letter because I wanted to find out how passionate he was about being a successful tour player. So Kevin wrote me a letter and I said, well, this guy's pretty, passionate. So again, I mapped out a plan. We did Monday qualifiers for nationwide tour events. And he then qualified. He then got into the top 10. And then within 7 months, he'd won at Stonebray. And then we got onto the PGA Tour, almost won the US Open at Congressional in 14. So I'm very good at problem solving. I'm not good. I get bored quickly, right? So if there's something that really interests me, like, okay, here's a problem. Okay, I will then go in. I get really excited about fixing the problem, learning the subject matter, getting in there, fixing the weeds. but I'm good as a consultant. Don't keep me on beyond 6 months because you're boring me now, right? Maybe bring me in.
Yeah, like I told you already, like, this is the plan. Like, you have to do it.
Yeah, I'm not very good at babysitting.
Yeah.
I don't like, if you look at the best golfers in the world, Faldo, Jack Nicklaus, Tiger, they're pretty self-sufficient individuals. There's no drip feed of, information all the time. And what I try to do with these players is try and make them self-sufficient so they understand their business plan. It's not my business plan. It's my business plan that I'm going to give to them, and they take ownership of it. If I hang around, it's terrible. Yeah, it's terrible because they become over-reliant.
Yeah, because you're babysitting at that point. It's like they have to rely on themselves. Like, here's the outline, here's the plan. You need to execute it. I'll help you execute it, but then it's on you to do this or not, right?
Well, here's a great analogy for you. If the only color you knew was red, you wouldn't know it was red because you've got no other colors to compare it against, right? And that's what happens with golf instructors, is there comes a point where they start to become swing blind, where they've seen this swing so many times, it's like, even though the numbers are there, you've still got to do the visual interpretation, because unless something visually changes, the numbers aren't going to change. That's just a fact, right? So there comes a point in a relationship where, like a graph, you go here and it's really good and you've got them very efficient. And then there comes a point where it goes down this. You've got to pull out at this point where things are going well, So I'm very, very cognizant of that when I work with players, even amateurs. Yeah.
So then, where's your schools at right now? Or where are you? So you're in New Jersey, but are you doing? Is there other schools too, or just New Jersey, or do you travel throughout the year, or what do you do?
Yeah, so I spend the summers up here, which is fantastic, and then I'm launching some products in the winter this year, which are going to be online tutorial products. So they're going to be courses that people can buy, which I'm really excited about, because being visual, I'm going to use certain different dynamics with camera shots that have never been seen before. I don't want to give too much away, but it's going to be very different to what you may have seen already. And they're going to be video products that people can watch them at their leisure. And but they're going to be very high product, like master classes. So, so if people want to come and see me, it's easy. You just go on Thrive. I think it's Thrive Sports, Thrive without an E. They can look me up in Tenafly, New Jersey, and they can book in just on the app. It's really easy to do. So, and fortunately with the club, I can look at outside people as well. So it's good.
Yeah, because there's only so many hours in the day, right? So it's like you can only see so many people in a day. Like, that's just it.
Yeah, but more than that, it's like with tour players. You mentioned hours there. One of the big things that I flip with the tour player is to get them to say, look, there's no such thing as time management. It's actually energy management. You can't manage time anyway, right? You can't speed it up. You can't slow it down. You can't pause it, right? So what you can, though, you can manage the energy in that day. So I'm really careful about how much energy I use, throughout my teaching week. Actually, I learned a lot from watching Tiger. Learned a lot from watching Tiger on the PGA Tour, because Tiger was unique in so much as he was out of there very fast. He'd get to the golf course at 5:45, 6 in the morning. He'd play, do his work. By 1:30, he was in his hotel room playing his Xbox or whatever it was, right? So from 1:30, he was in recovery time. All the other tour players were there till 6, quick shower, go and have dinner, and then up at 7 the next morning. So Tiger's genius, and Jack Nicklaus's genius, because Jack didn't play a full schedule at all, was the fact that they really understood energy management over time management. That was the key thing. So I do that with my teaching. I want to make sure that I'm always fresh for the student.
So, like, what time are you done teaching then? This is really interesting, actually, what you're talking about. So, like, for you, what time is it like, okay, I can't do anymore, my brain is wiped? Is there like a 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and you're done, or is it every day different, or how do you do that? If
Yeah.
you're an
So
entrepreneur, like how would you do that?
found is variety keeps my brain fresh. So what I will typically do is I'll do 3 sessions in the morning, 2 early afternoon, then take a break, and then I'll go on the golf course and do playing instruction, working on routines, rituals, breathing techniques, visualizing, blah, blah, blah. So I actually still do a full day, 9 till 6, but
Yeah.
because I'm breaking it up and making it different, it holds my interest and my energy. If I was out there all the time, next one,
On the range, next. Yeah. There's
you
no
know,
way, right? There's absolutely no way.
yeah, forget it. And by the way, you're out there working on people's golf swings to take them on the golf course. You don't want them to be just good range players. You want to say, okay, let's go out
You're
there.
a really good range player.
Yeah,
Just don't
let's
leave
go.
here.
We've built the car in the shop. Let's go and put it on the test track, right? So there's a lot of that as well. I love doing that with juniors as well. I've been very lucky in my career. I've coached 2 juniors to world champions, 4 national champions, and what have you. Juniors, if you give me a great junior with a great learning attitude, God, I mean, it's so much pleasure, so much pleasure.
Like, what's the best part of your job? Like, what do you love? Like, what's the thing you love the most about it?
So one of the questions that I ask a student is, what does success look like to you in the next 60 minutes or half day session or whatever? What does success look like to you? And then when they give me that deliverable, I'm like super focused on changing or manifesting that wish. So when I actually say, let's say someone comes over the top, I had a great guy the other day, check out my Instagram channel, that they over the top. The club was coming through the neck. I mean, it was that steep. And then within 60 minutes, I've got it going through the bicep, and he's a lot shallower, and his jaw. He'd never hit a draw before. And it's that wonderment on the face that I think
the joy, the pure joy. You're like, oh, that just happened.
Who hit that shot, And more than that, it's even better when they understand how they did it. Well,
they can repeat it again. Yeah, it's not a fluke.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I think the best part of my job is when people come to me, and it could be a tour player as well. I mean, I'll give you another great example on those lines. Leona Maguire, who's on the LPGA tour, she was at Duke University. And one day about 5 years ago, I get a call from the parents, and she had lost her #1 ranking as an amateur in the world. And, the coaching wasn't going well, and she was confused, blah, blah, blah. So I get called up in a consultancy role. And for like a year and a half, I work with her. I caddy for her in the US Open, and she gets back to world #1 again. That's a classic case of really digging someone out of a problem. And I guess that's what still brings me back to the job day after day, is someone saying to me, I keep duffing my chips. I cannot get out of a bunker. And the best part of my job, to answer your question more succinctly, is that I'm not a teaching snob. I can work with Justin Rose and Nick Faldo just as well as I can work with a 20 handicapper. I'm really lucky in so much that I don't go, oh, I'm not going to work with you. I'm just going to go and work with you. I've never had that value system, which is really, I'm really lucky that way.
That's cool. So what is your favorite memory teaching so far? Because you've had a lot of cool, like, what is the coolest thing? You're like, oh, this is the craziest thing. When Justin, were you with Justin when he won?
No, it was so Ryder Cup captain Paul McGinley called me in 2013 for the 2014 matches. And he said, Nick, I want you to, and you can Google this, Nick, I want you to create 7 images for the team room, for the like internal messaging for the team. So I worked for a year putting these images together with like little taglines, like subliminal taglines, but also very powerful images. And that year in 2014, there were only 2 consultants that came in to help the team. One of them was Sir Alex Ferguson, who's Manchester United's winning manager of all time, I think, in any sport. He was one consultant and I was the other one. So I was deeply honored to do all of the messaging. So I did some really cool stuff with that. Like, for example, I found this really old 1976 image of Sevi, and he had like a monobrow. That's how young he was, right? He had a monobrow, but he's looking in the camera like he's going to rip your head off. And so I did a beautiful image of him that actually was by the door as our players walked out onto the range. So the last thing they saw was Sevi, very emotional for the Europeans. And it said, I shake their hand, I pat them on the back, I wish them luck, but in my head, I'm thinking, I'm going to bury you.
That's awesome.
Which is an actual quote from Sevi. So I created this image, and that's where it was on the thing. That's the last thing. So they went, let's go. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, because they're going into battle, right? I mean, it's like they're going to be gentlemen about it, but they're going into battle. They're still going to want to destroy them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that was pretty cool, being, a consultant for the Ryder Cup team that won. That was nice.
They're always winning.
You what?
They always win.
Well, no, you guys, yeah, that's right. Well, we'll see next year, eh? Yeah, we'll see next year. But yeah, I've had some pretty cool memories. I mean, working with Faldo was interesting. I mean, I remember after the Irish Open in '94, Nick and his family came to Mount Juliet, where I was running the academy, just for a vacation. Nick was a big fly fisher, right? Still is in Montana. And so he went down to the range with this little private range at Mount Juliet down by the river. And I said to him, can I come and watch you hit golf balls? And he said, sure, no problem. I'd never taught Nick Faldo at that point. I just watched David coaching him. So anyway, so I put some on video just for my own benefit to look. And he's a big guy. He's like 6'3". He's like gargantuan. And he said, what do you see? What do you see in my swing? I was 23 years old. And I was like,
looks good to me.
Yeah, I was like that. And I said, well, I think maybe this and this. And he goes, yeah, he said, that's what I'm working on with David. And I was like, wow, like that. So that was pretty cool. That was pretty nerve-wracking. I mean,
Nick, dude, you're like, tons of stuff. Like, it's just, I like it because you're so humble. It's like, your stuff. And like, even 35 years ago, right? Like, you're just like, well, this is your problem. And the guy would listen to you and you're right, but then like the way you look at things too is more like visual, which a lot of people are not, and you like that. Like, you like to visually show what you need to do to fix it, or what is the problem.
That is true, because, people play their worst golf. I've got a Corn Ferry guy at the moment who's playing terrible golf at the moment, not anywhere near his capability. And that's because his focus is what we call narrow internal. Everything is like, meh, 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 meh. Everything's directed in this way. And we know that players play their best when they are working with images and feelings. No one ever really got better through hearing a great sentence. Someone got better by feeling something, or they imagined something, or whatever. So, the more you can move away from like verbosity and words and what have you, and go into pictures and feelings, that's the food that the brain wants to have, right? So if you can teach in those metaphors, then I think you've jumped over all the claptrap that you can get stuck into.
When did your latest book come out?
So my latest book is this one, which is 50 Secrets to Great Golf You Don't Know About Yet, right? And no pictures in this one. So
what?
Yeah. So I'm a very I take a lot of notes, right? Like notes.
Oh my gosh, your notes. Yeah.
So what I did was I was like, oh my God, I've got so many notes. What am I going to do with these things? So I thought, okay, I'm going to bring out like books. So this is 50 Secrets. They're just 50 small essays 50 small essays that I've learned over 30 years of instructing. You know, and they're small, so they're not hard work on the brain. I'm writing a new book at the moment, which is called the PGA Tour Player's Handbook to Success, and it's all geared towards elite players. And this book's pretty hard hitting. I'm pulling no punches with this book. So, you know, I'm saying, look, if you do that, you're an idiot. Okay, you need to be doing this, right? So again, it's based around all the notes that I've taken. But
so
I
life,
to,
right? It's like you're not gonna sugarcoat it. It's like you've seen it, you know. Like people, like if you can't handle that, then you really shouldn't be on the tour, right? Or you shouldn't be playing at that level. Like,
and by the way, you're not a grown adult, right? You know, so 50 Secrets is going really well. There's a section in the back actually for parents and juniors, which I'm proud of. But I do want to bring out in the next couple of years. I do want to bring out a book that really blows out the biomechanics from a visual point of view. Like people can just turn the page
like
and go,
simple, yeah, so simple. They go, oh, I get it. Oh, I see.
yeah, boom, yeah, that's it. So
oh, that's a ground force. Okay, now I get it.
Yeah,
because you hear all these like terms, and you're like, oh, I think I understand what that means, but it's like, did they? I don't know.
Yeah. What does ground force mean? You know, you've got to visually show it. So I do. There's another book in the works there, but one book at a time, Paul. One book at a time.
So how did you meet the guys at Squares? Were you already talking about that kind of thing, and then you met Bob, or was it through Nick?
Well, obviously, you know, using the ground was very pertinent in my teaching.
Yeah.
You know, I've been writing about it for over 2 decades. And so what happened was I was just on LinkedIn and I see Bob here, founder of Squares. Well, what is that? And then it said the leader in, you know, ground force technology with shoes. Now, at that point, it could have been tennis. It could have been the javelin. It could have been, I didn't know it was golf. Swimming. So I looked at it and I was like, wow, someone actually gets it. You know, someone actually gets that the most consistent thing in the golf swing is the ground, and you better darn well use it. So I called him up. I got in contact with him, and
Bob's great. I love Bob. Bob's awesome.
Yeah, and I wanted to know his story, and then he sent me a pair of shoes, and I put the shoes on, and I was like, you know, I've been sponsored by Nike for 16 years, and my feet felt like they were in a sardine can. I mean, my feet were like
because the toe's so tight in them.
Oh, it's like a torpedo.
Oh, yeah, I hate that feeling.
Like this. So then I put Squares on, and all of a sudden my feet could splay, which is good for gripping, right? I can grip better like this than I can like that, right? So all of a sudden now I'm feeling it. So I went up New Hampshire and I visited with him, and we got on great. And now I'm kind of like an advisor in the company. And then I shot loads of adverts with Nick Faldo, which is ironic because that was my hero when I was back in 18, 19 years old, and here I am working with Nick with the golf shoes. So it kind of like went full circle. But they're fantastic. I mean, they feel so solid on your feet.
Have you gotten the new ones? Because they have those 3 new ones that just came out.
I've got a pair. I've got a pair over here. Yeah, I do.
Which one are you using, or which one do you like of the 3? The Velo or?
Yeah, it's that one. Yeah.
That's pretty cool shoe.
So, but the other area where I love it is with putting, because with the square toe, as soon as I get my line down on the putter, with my on-point ball marker, by the way, there's another great company. You've got to look at on-point.
I'm friends with Briston too. I know Briston.
Yeah,
I know Briston for a long time.
What a great invention that is, by the way. But as soon as I've used the on-point ball marker and put the line down, the square toes are so perfect for like, okay, well, I'm here, bang, like that. So between Squares golf shoes and on-point ball markers, you should have your putting sorted out. I'm telling you.
My putting's trash right now. I had the best round of golf ever last week, ever, and then I've had 4 3 putts. Like, I mean, I was out driving, my iron, everything was going, my putting was trash. And I was like, had I just got my putting down, even a normal putting day, I would have been like low 80s. But no, didn't happen.
Yeah, well, if you're three putting that much, you've got to look at your pace, because normally it's pace.
Is it? Yeah, I don't even know what I was doing wrong. I got a new putter like last couple months ago, and yeah, I don't know. It was so frustrating. It's like the worst. Like, like your best round, you can't putt. It's like that's like how golf is, I feel like.
Well, the frustrating thing about that is golf is like a set of scales. If your long game is up, your short game is down. If your short game is up, the trick to golf is get that equilibrium, right? So that's what normally happens with people's golf games. And of course, if you're hitting a lot of fairways and greens, subconsciously it's putting pressure on you, because you're thinking, I should be making every putt here because I'm hitting all the greens. It
never happens. It never happened before. Like, the complete opposite. Like, usually my putting saves my ass, and then everything else doesn't work. And then this is the complete opposite. I know what to do. Like, I had 4 3-putts. It's a lot of 3-putts.
Not good, Paul. Not good.
No, I got to see Nick Bradley. So I need
Yeah.
I need to finish reading all your books. And
I haven't done a putting book yet, though. Actually, in my second book, Kinetic Golf, there's quite a lot of putting in there, actually, kinetic golf. So,
you should do with the last book, like with your YouTube channel, you should like make reels on that, or like little quick videos on like each one of those little secrets. That'd be cool, because people would watch that. Like number 47, blah, 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 and then like you just show the video, because that'd be a good reel and a good like 4-minute video. I don't know, and you can just double dip.
It's like I watch Robert Greene, the 48 Laws of Power. He does that, and then you've got the guy who's the Daily Stoic. What's his name?
Oh, I love Ryan Holiday.
Ryan Holiday.
Dude, I love Ryan Holiday. I just got like I love his books. I just got the one that was like 365 days of Stoicism for dads or something. I don't know. Like
I've just finished Discipline is Destiny, which is good. I mean, I'm fairly disciplined anyway, but I mean, I do like the reels, to your point, that he does, and Robert.
Yeah. My favorite is was it Ego is the Enemy, and The Obstacle in the Way. The Obstacle in the Way is the first one I listened to.
Yeah, Obstacle is the Way. Actually, Rory read that one. Rory read that one 5 years ago, when he went through a really bad patch and then started to read about Stoicism, and he read a couple of Ryan's books and really kind of like cleaned his thinking up, cleaned it up.
I love Stoicism. I'm like totally down with Stoicism. I think like I didn't even know that was till like 5 years ago, and I'm like, where is this on my life?
Yeah, right? No, I had a friend, Morgan Mason, give me a book, Marcus Aurelius Meditations, and this was back in like 2004-5. And I found it quite difficult to understand because there's no pictures. And duh.
You're like, I thought this was gonna be like Gladiator. What the hell?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Julius Caesar, Richard Burton, no less. And anyway, but Marcus Aurelius was my first meditations, first insight into Stoicism.
So how'd you meet Briston from On Point?
Well, so I got introduced to Briston about 3 or 4 years ago, and I was in between meetings, and it was a quick hi, bye sort of thing, and then somehow we got connected again through a mutual friend of ours, and he sent me a load of the product, and I swear to you, I made more 10-foot putts using On Point golf markers, because I just set the marker down really quickly, get the line, bang, bang, bang. And I was like, well, there's something in this. There's absolutely something in the fact that it's
very visual, like you, right? Because like that's the key. It's like visual. It's like it's 3-dimensional, right? We don't look at things flat.
No, your eyes have a problem because they're looking at a 2-dimensional coin, and then they're trying to figure out the ball. Well, this is like a camel's hump. It goes 1, 2, and it just trundles on. So I used it, and I was like, wow. So I then contacted Briston, and I've gone on. I've done a lot of promotional stuff for Briston and what have you. And my son who's in construction, he actually now works for Briston out in Aspen as well, because On Point ball markers, believe it or not, this is the genius of Briston Peterson. is that that's not his actual job. A little bit like he's in construction. But guess who else had a side job? Was Ping founder Carsten Solheim.
Really?
Carsten Solheim, his actual occupation, believe it or not, was making prosthetic limbs. And then he came up with the idea of Ping with the putter, and then launched the Ping product. So Briston Peterson's is exactly the same. He's got an amazing company called Brycor in Aspen, Colorado. But as a sideline, he said, "Oh, I'll just invent these amazing ball markers." Blah blah blah. So the folks listening should really check it out. onpointgolf.us. Really amazing.
Yeah, I've known Briston's like for a long time. Like we're buddies.
Yeah, such a lovely guy.
He's a good dude.
Yeah.
So where can people find you? Or the best way people can find you?
Yeah, YouTube. It's Nick Bradley Golf, and it's the same with Instagram. And my website is bradleygolf.com. So there's some stuff on there, mainly online courses. But of course, they can see me in person if they want to. And to get me direct, just go through the website. There's a contact box there. They can email me direct, and if they're in the area, my first question to them will be, "What does success look like to you, and what can I do?"
That's awesome. Well, I really appreciate you being on the show. I know you're a very busy man, and I'm a big fan. I followed your career, and you guys need to check out Nick's stuff. Like Nick is the real deal. And so thank you for being on the show. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for having me.